Now, we're going to take a few minutes to look at the actual Greek theater space and some of the basic things used for scenery and costumes. Lighting, of course, was provided by the sun at that time. Greek theater took place outdoors, but there are four basic components to the theater space I want you to know: the orchestra, the theatron, the skena, and the thymele. The orchestra was the circular performance space. And if you look at the bottom of our amphitheater here at Gordon, you can kind of get a rough idea of what it would have been like. The theatron was a word that meant seeing place. The theatron was the hillside that overlooked the performance space. And initially, when it was first made, it was just people sitting on the hillside. But eventually they ended up developing it a little further with stone benches and whatnot. It was more built up. And again, we can get a sense of this a little bit from our amphitheater here at Gordon. The skena was essentially the backstage for the Greek theater. It was used initially as a changing room and eventually became something that was used in performance. It started as a wooden structure and was later built as a permanent stone one. The thymele was an altar. We don't know exactly what it was used for, but it was part of the theater space. It could have been used in sacrifices made in conjunction with the worship portions of the festival, or it could have been there for use in the plays. We really don't know. Scenery was very basic, and in no way was meant to convey realism. Here are some of the scenic elements I want you to be familiar with. The pinache, which amounted to a large painted canvas, much like what we'd call a flat in the theater today. They also used devices known as periaktoi, mechane, and ekaklima. Let's look at these three in greater detail, and also rest comfortably in knowing that there won't be a pronunciation portion on the exam. The periaktoi was a three-sided flat that was used to depict three different locations. The side facing the audience would be where the characters were located. This picture, and probably this, I'm using air quotes here, periaktoi, isn't great, but it gives you an idea of what they might have looked like. The mechane was a crane used to raise or lower actors into the scene who were playing gods. This was used to wrap up the problems of the play. The god would come in and use their powers to fix whatever situation was going on. We get the literary term deus ex machina from this, and it's not really considered to be a good thing. It's a lazy technique to wrap up your story. The ekaklima. Keep in mind, violence was not committed on stage in the Greek theater. When somebody was murdered or horribly disfigured, like with Oedipus, this would happen off stage. And then the ekaklima, which was a wagon, was used to reveal the violence that was done by wheeling the dead or mutilated person on stage. A lot of the violence was probably depicted in the masks the actors wore. All the actors on the Greek stage were masked. The masks would be large so that people in the nosebleed seats could see and carry the look of the emotion the character was supposed to have in a given scene. The mask may have contained some natural bullhorn-like amplification, but this would also be useful if you were wanting to show something gory, like Oedipus's eyeballs having been gouged out, which would have taken place off stage. Actors also wore brightly colored robes known as chitons. So, do you have any experience with Greek theater? Have you read a Greek play before? Seen one? Been in one? What was it? What do you think about the journey of theater from religious experience, fundamental to survival, to whatever it is today? Talk about this or anything else that occurred to you about the Greek theater lectures on the discussion board in a post.